Welcome to Failed Forward, a podcast for professionals who are wondering, how the hell did I get here?
Join your host, Rachel Durkan, and me, Donna Miller, as we discuss the messy, bumpy, and often unattractive journey to success.
After all, if it isn't hard to do, is it really worth doing? Hello, everyone, and welcome to Failed Forward, the podcast for those of us wondering, how the hell did I get here? My name is Rachel Durkan. I'm with Paradigm Marketing and Design. We are a web marketing, branding, and sales enablement agency that specializes in working with clients with a complex sale. So if you require a sales team to close a deal and have an interaction with prospects and customers, we can help that sales team be more effective with a higher close rate and more qualified meetings. And I am joined every week by my lovely co-host, Donna Miller. Donna, introduce yourself to our audience.
Hello, everyone. I am indeed Donna Miller, and I am Chief Visionary Officer and founder at C3 Workplace and Donna Miller Business Growth Consulting, where we are entering our fourth decade of helping companies and teams to accelerate their growth by providing business advisory and support services. So people bring us in because they know that we will build integrated, simple, effective, executable systems they can execute or we can execute. And really what we're doing is we're helping companies to build the foundation for a company that will run and grow without them, something that's kind of near and dear to me. And actually, we're kind of talking about the opposite of that today. So today, Rachel and I are kind of excited to talk to you. I don't know if excited is the right word, but holding on to the things for too long. What are we holding on to that we've been holding on for too long? Rachel, start us out.
Us down like an anchor.
Yes.
So the original conversation started as client, holding on to clients for too long, or, and being able to walk away from that money because what is it? What are you sacrificing for it? But then it really went into habits that we're holding on for too long, and maybe team members or consultants that were holding on for too long. And, I read this interesting stat that if you sit somebody next to a negative performer, a bad performer, their productivity goes down 30%. And if you sit them next to a strong performer, their productivity goes up 10%. And that's just kind of an insight to our environment, and those around us affect what we do every day. They affect our impact, they affect our performance, they affect our mood. And so, I remember when I started my business, I would have done anything. I was about to say I would have done anything for money. That's maybe not what I should have said. But I would have done anything for a client. I wanted to work. I was passionate about the company. I was excited to bring on new clients. And man, did I have some, I'm going to not use the word I'm thinking. And
use epic failures.
Epic failures, yes.
Been there.
And, they take so much mind space, and here's what I say to my team if we have a challenging client, because even today, sometimes we do. Did we do everything? If we could go back, did we do everything right? Did we work as hard as we could and do the best job we could? And if the answer is no, because we can't control the client, we can control what we do. We can control how we react to the client. We control the work we do. If I'll say to them from a value standpoint, if you feel that you did the best job you could and we didn't make any mistakes, then we'll walk away, or we'll go to bat or whatnot. If you feel we should have done something differently, then we'll waive our time and we'll fix it. But I want to be able to walk away from any interaction knowing I did the best job I could, but sometimes it's time to just walk away, because even if I do the best job I can, they're taking all my time, all my effort, and I'm not paying attention to my other clients, my other employees, my other responsibilities, because all I'm worried about is this one huge pile of crap in the room when there's so much else going on. I call it fires. I'm trying to put out this big fire, and I don't see all the other fires lighting behind me. And that has dragged my company down several times over the years. And it's not until you're out of it do you realize, holy crap, I should have let that go so much earlier.
Yeah. And that falls squarely under, high touch, low profit.
Mm-hmm.
You can't build a business on it. And I think, for me, I do remember the first big client I lost, like a 5-figure a month client. Like this was like 10 years in. I was like, shit, oops, sorry.
Oh, crap. Is that also bad?
That was a really big client. It was really hard to lose that business. But I will say that that as we've talked in the past about, different ways that we've involved in our businesses. And, for me, a very, very major turning point was, Simon Sinek and Lead with Why and getting clear on my values. And I knew, like, I was unintentionally a values-driven company from the get-go, but I got strategic about it, 10, 12 years in. And I remember I had this client, and it was a pretty significant client. And he was just giving my team a hard time all the time. And so, I wasn't really
Never do
involved in
anything right.
exactly. I was, and he would make these comments to my team about what he was paying us, and if he wasn't paying us that, he could hire whatever, and la 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 la. And so I would have these, like sometimes you have to have conversations with clients, like you have conversations with team members, because this just isn't acceptable behavior, and this isn't how we operate. And if this doesn't change, then we might have to make a change. And ultimately, basically, honestly, he was belittling my team.
Yeah, it's
And
abuse.
and yeah,
no one
and it
wants to come
was
to
and
abuse.
yeah, and it's like, somebody's attacking my kids, like
Yes.
this is not okay. And so ultimately I did have to say to him, listen, this isn't working for either one of us. You're unhappy all the time. I don't want my people treated this way. Let's give ourselves a 30-day transition and part ways. And we did. And I will say, with that particular person, several years later, they asked me to come in and facilitate and do this year-long program. And it was kind of at the beginning of my consulting and teaching career. And I thought, oh, that's probably a good opportunity. And I knew the people who were going to be in the group. And I did it for a year. And sure enough, there really was nothing different. So at the end of the year, I said, thanks, but I'm not going to renew and blah, blah, blah. And I just thought what was funny was that particular person told everyone that he fired me.
That's so, what's so funny? I just had this conversation. So
Whole thing.
we
Yeah.
talked about our last podcast about empowering your team members,
Yeah.
to go from doers to managers. So I just had this conversation. We had a client, not abusive, but challenging, it wouldn't respond to us, but then everything was our fault. And in those cases, I always say it comes down to, I call it a Hail Mary. Either we're going to have a very difficult conversation and reset and have a respectable relationship, or one of us is firing the other. There's no way out of it. So like ignoring it, pretending it's not happening, like that's not going to help anyone. And, I coached this person to have that conversation. Like, do you want to do this or not? We'll let you out of your contract. But if you want us to stay on, this is what we expect of you as a client.
Exactly.
And that levels the playing field. And you mentioned like defending your children. Years ago, we got a new client, very strong personality. And we had made a small mistake in the beginning of the process. Nothing major that hurt them, but like, it wasn't as efficient as it could have been. And that was like, and we acknowledged it and we said, we're going to fix it. And so what happened though, is we got into this relationship where we were always at fault. You screwed up that one time. So everything's because of that one screw up. And I remember we were like 3 or 4 months in and we were trying, because I've said it in the past, if I make a mistake, I'm going to do what I can to make it right. And I'm going to walk away feeling good that I did the best job I could. But we had paid our dues on this. And so I remember he made one of my team members cry. And I was like, he's strong. Like she's good. She's good at what she does. And she didn't tell me she was crying. Somebody else told me that she made her cry. And I mean, I was just,
yeah.
I got all like pumped up. So I call him. I'm like, I realize we made a mistake, but we fixed it. We paid our dues and I'm done. You can't talk to us this way. You can't do this anymore. We can walk away right now and this and move on. And he says to me, oh, all right, you drew your line. I get it. No, I'll be better. Like he went from being a total jerk. We have him to this day, 5 years in, nicest guy, best relationship. So
I think, yeah.
I'm not excusing the behavior, but sometimes you need a reset and it's like, shape up or get out. And you have to be comfortable having that conversation.
Yeah, I have definitely had clients where they want you to push back. They probably may not be consciously aware of that.
Yeah.
But there are personalities that respect when you push back. And I do think what I've come to learn over the last, 10 years or so is, and I say this to my clients all the time and my team as I'm leading them, is how you prospect and how you close business is how you do business. So from the get-go, it's incumbent, I believe, upon us to train our clients how we want to behave
Yeah.
be treated. And I think that's true everywhere in life,
Expectations. Yeah.
whether it's your spouse, your children, your friends, whatever it is. I think we do train people on how to treat us. And, you talked before about if you sit next to someone negative or positive, the impact it has. I have to say that in my experience, um, um, being in a close relationship with someone who is just negative, and unfortunately, I think in our world today, there's a ton of
Mhm.
negativity and conspiracy theory stuff, and blah 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 blah. I you know ended that relationship, and I can honestly say that I did not realize the impact that negativity was having on me.
Don't realize that
And
you're in it.
right. And I think to myself, holy moly, I built this company under that cloud of negativity. And now the negative presence was gone, I can honestly say that as a relatively emotionally intelligent person, I'm going to tell you, it took me 2.5 years until I
Mhm.
could look and say, oh my goodness, that was so weighing me down.
Yeah. And it weighs
Who
the whole
knew?
team down.
It
I've
does.
had, in the 15 years I've been doing this, I have had not a lot, but like situations where there's a team member, that's spreading discord. And you don't realize it at the time, but when that person leaves, it's just a whole different
Right,
environment. And so
right.
one of the things that I look at, we talked about like performers on another podcast, if somebody doesn't have the soft skills, I'll teach that over time. But I look at the culture fit more than anything. If somebody's like a high performer, but they're sucking the life out of you or your team, they have to go. Doesn't
I
matter
agree. I
because it
agree.
hurts the whole
I
in
agree.
a huge way. And I had this experience. We had a client for years, one of my favorite clients, huge client, but also one of my favorite, and they got acquired. And first of all, this tells me, I know you sold your business the right way, Donna. Like, I mean, PE money, I don't think, after watching some of my clients go through,
Yeah, no, I
not
have
knocking
heard
it,
that.
but
I have heard that. Yeah.
they went through a culture shift because they got acquired, or they did a PE buyout and mergers. And the new people we had to deal with, I tried so hard. I wanted to keep the revenue for my company. I wanted to keep the revenue for the team. I wanted to make it work because I was so passionate about that client for years. It was like a breakup. And I held on for a year where I would get emails from this client and my stomach would hurt just seeing their email.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
just seeing the email come through or the phone
Yeah.
come through.
That's when you know.
Yeah, but I held on to it and I was like, I can't let this go. This is a lot of revenue for us because it was big. And when it finally ended, it was amazing. It was such a, like, you hold on so tight. And then when you let go, it's like freeing. And
I
so,
know.
now I try to look like, is this going to make my life easier if I let go? Like letting go is a gift. And I don't, firing a client is a gift. You lose a little bit of revenue, but now you have more time to focus on bringing in new clients. You have more time to focus on developing your team. You have more time and more happy headspace. So if I
Yeah.
teach a lesson to anybody, it's like, let go faster.
Yeah. And you know what? I think we hold on to the bigger clients, not the smaller ones, which have the greater negative impact on you.
Yes.
Um, and I do want to transition because I want to make sure we get to it. But we've been talking about clients, and the truth is, I've held on to team members for way longer than
Mhm.
I should have, and I can think of one in particular during COVID. Um, I think this person had some anxiety for starters,
Mhm.
and I think COVID pushed her over the edge. But I spent time training her. I had another person spend time
First
trying
one
to
the
work it out.
same.
Then I had a third person. And by the time, the truth is, I always want to do whatever I do with compassion and love. That's how I show up. So I'm not going to just indiscriminately, go on my opinion and let someone go who's counting on this paycheck
Yeah.
in the middle of a pandemic.
Mhm.
Um, but I think that, the amount of time and I mean, we, did therapy and, we did all kinds of things, but the amount of time that I invested in this person was completely, it was not at all appropriate to the situation. Um, and I think I've done that more than once in keeping the wrong people, or again, trying to force solutions. And I guess what I would say is, and the one thing that I definitely want to touch on during this particular episode is you talked about it made my stomach hurt. I think we have to be, as leaders, we have to really get in tune with what are those clues,
Never again. Yeah.
right? Clues that we need to let something go. I'm actually in the middle of reading, as many people have, Mel Robbins' Let Them, right? So who are the let thems in our life? Who are the let thems that we need to just let go of? And again, whether it's clients, whether it's staffing, which is, I think we've all done that. But I think it's also, we've all got habits that we're hanging on to that aren't helping us either.
So I was just talking to, one of my managers about this, that's developing, and they have a team of like several people, 5, 6, 7, that they have to develop, it's their goal. And we have one position open available. Somebody was in it and they were failing miserably. They'd gone through 3 different managers. Like, we've kept moving them. And this person kept protecting them, thinking that it was their failure by not helping them. And I said, look, you have one shot to make this work. You can do it with this person, or you can let this person go and we'll promote this person. You can do it with them. Who do you want to do it with? And when I reframed it to, you have a choice to make it work, as opposed to, I'm feeling this situation. Like, you have to bring it up to a business question. Is it this? Is it that? Not is it like, not that we want to be, emotionally intelligent. We want to be values driven. But at the end of the day, if you're focusing over here, the rest of the company's failing. You're failing everybody else. So if I'm putting 99% of my effort into one thing here, I'm not paying attention to everybody else who needs me.
Yeah.
And you have to look at it that way as a leader.
The other thing is, when we keep people longer than we should, we're sending that message to our entire team, whether it's a client, whether it's a staff member. I think staff members even more dangerous. They can have a pervasive negative effect, because it's almost like you're looking the other way. You're allowing, it's like, is that your favorite child? Again, it comes back. It's so much like raising children.
It's so much. But I think clients just as important. We have a rule now
I agree.
Where if a client is like sucking the time out of someone, I'll say, well, should we fire them? And usually the team will be like, they don't, again, it's like this failure. Oh, well, let me see if we can. And first we always try the direct conversation, and ultimately, I remember the other day, one of my team members coming to me and found like, yes, we need to fire this person. I'm like, great, we fired them. She's like, I'm so much happier. And it affected them, and it affected how they were treating their other clients. So I think it goes, I think any negativity, again, always do the best you can. But when but sometimes the best you can do is let it go.
All righty. So we're heading up against the top end of this. Let me ask you the question we always ask our clients: is one thing you'd do differently in this regard if you could go back?
Oh, I would listen to my stomach sooner. Everything I did, it took too long. You always hear that from me. I wish I learned it faster. And, I wish I failed fewer times, because, I probably failed on this one particular thing 10, 11, 12 times in my career. I wish it only took 4 to learn it, but sometimes it doesn't.
Right. For me, I would stay in my lane, because I feel like when I go outside my lane, whether it's a client who wants, listen, I'm a figure it out person, and people say to me, have you ever worked with this kind of company? I'm like, no, but we do new every day, every single day. However, I think I know that some of my bigger failures were because I just went a little too far outside, and I tried to accomplish something that, really wasn't part of my strength. So I think I would stay in my lane a bit more.
Yeah.
So on that note, we encourage you to let go of any negativity that you're currently encountering, whether that's clients, staff, or habits, and embrace failing forward, because it really is how we get from here to where we want to go. So we thank you for joining us, and until next episode, we wish you well.